Welcome to the newest episode of The Altar of Madness. In this episode, I would like to discuss the 1994 album by 9 Nails, The Downward Spiral. In this album, which I don't know why I decided to review this album of all albums that I listened to, different genres. For some reason, this album really stuck out in my mind as an album that needed to be discussed. For some reason, I don't know. I recently kind of rediscovered it, though it's an album that I've listened to a lot. But let me go through a track listing here for it and talk to you about the different tracks. A lot of people will know a few tracks on this album. For instance, the hit Closer, You Bring Me Closer to God. Yes, that was a hit single back in 94, 95. Then you had the song Hurt, which a lot of people know Johnny Cash, before he died, covered that song, and a lot of people only know the cover. They don't realize that it was a 9 Nails song. Which do I prefer? The 9 Nails one, honestly, and I prefer the quiet version that was on Further Down the Spiral, the remixes. They really didn't change anything on the song. The quiet version that's on that album is actually, I think better, because it's actually louder, and it's the one that was on the radio. But both are great. Like I said, it's only a little bit louder. There's not much of a difference in this song at all. So the album starts off with Mr. Self-Destruct, and it is one of the most abrasive, loudest, heaviest tracks on the album. So it starts out pretty heavy, and as it ends with Hurt, so a more melancholy piece. And the thing about this album is that they call it the Downward Spiral. It's actually a concept album, and I really like concept albums like Operation Mindcrime, which is a metal concept album. There are a lot of concept albums that are really good, but we're talking about the Downward Spiral, and it is actually about, from track to track, if you listen to it, and I think it is an album that you should listen to as a whole. You shouldn't just listen to the hit singles, because there's so much to this album that really makes it great, in my opinion. Because it does follow someone who is in a downward spiral of addiction, is actually as stated in Mr. Self-Destruct. I am the high you can't sustain. I'm the need in you for more. That's what that's about. As the album progresses, you've got Piggy, which is actually a great track, a great live track for them. Piggy is not what you could expect from right after an abrasive, heavy track like that. There's a lot of great layering on this album. Musically, there's the really abrasive, more industrial side, and then there's the really melodic parts that really, the layers of this album, which I would recommend listening to it several times, because there's so much you'll pick up after repeated listenings. You've got Heresy, the third track. It's kind of the person in the story questioning questioning religion. He questions everything in the story of the album. So it's really in the psyche of this person, and he's really going through a downward spiral. You've got March of the Pigs after that, and that's the track that some people may have heard a radio edit, but whatever, cut of that. It is a good track, very solid, and it has the abrasiveness, the heaviness, the fast industrial elements, along with the more traditional guitar-driven stuff within that song. The entire album actually has that. It has that abrasive side, and then it goes into the melodic, darker stuff. Closer, the next track, very well known. If you haven't heard that, I'd be very surprised. Now, the next three tracks on the album, the centerpiece of the album, are Ruiner, The Becoming, and I Do Not Want This. And those three tracks are completely solid. That is a great centerpiece for the album. Those three tracks, all the way through, listening from one to the next, it flows perfectly. I Do Not Want This is really, it's actually a really dark track on the album, which leads right into, okay, the next three songs, which is separated with a very melodic interlude, almost ambient type track, which is something that at the time Trent was doing. He did the Quake soundtrack, which I highly recommend. It's all ambient and dark, very dark. So A Warm Place is kind of one of those ambient instrumentals. And so A Big Man with a Big Gun, A Warm Place, and then Eraser. Now, A Big Man with a Big Gun, obviously it's got some definite sexual reference there, but that song is solid. One of the most chaotic songs on the album. That and Eraser, those two songs go hand in hand. They're both, very explicit, but at the same time, very... you can see the downward spiral of this album. The guy is going into madness, complete madness. And you've got Reptile, the next track, very, very well done track, very solid. I'd say it's one of the best tracks on the album. And then the Downward Spiral, the title track, which is a long piece that is very dark. There's a lot of lyrics in that are very, very, very grim. And it has it's like a huge interlude right there leading up to Hurt, where he says, I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. Well, earlier on, at the beginning of after Mr. Self-Destruct and Piggy, and it's reprised later on in another song, you have the refrain of nothing can stop me now. So he's invincible, he feels invincible, and at the end he's like, I hurt myself. So a lot of people will say, they may say, that's kind of emo sounding, but no, actually that's musically and lyrically, that's not very emo sounding actually. The album itself is very, very dark and very explicit, so I don't get the emo argument out of it, unless, you may hear that from industrial purists. Now I like my Skinny Puppy, my Frontline Assembly, my Womp Scut, my Suicide Commando, Ministry. I like a lot of other industrial bands. Nine Inch Nails is one of the most popular industrial bands that really led the way for bands like Stabbing Westward and Filter and less popular, less really one-hit wonder bands like Gravity Kills and crap like that. But Nine Inch Nails they weren't going for mainstream success with the Downward Spiral. Emotion was put into that album. That was a very dark time for Trent, just like with Broken. And things have really turned around for Trent Reznor and Nine Inch Nails. And I may do some more Nine Inch Nails album reviews, but probably not any time in the near future. I just figured that Downward Spiral would be that one album that, for some reason, it's stuck in my mind as an album that I needed to review right away. I don't know why. It just came to me as, hey, you need to do a review on this, so I did it. But hey, if anybody wants something reviewed, music, gaming, film, comics, whatever, TV series, let me know. Give me some suggestions if you want to in the comments, and if it's a movie I don't own, I'll go out and find it, buy it, whatever I got to do to get a hold of it, and we'll see what happens. Until next time, prepare yourself for more craziness, more madness, absolute madness.